Marker Boy with you again, this time for part 2 of my front porch rebuild here in town. But before we get started, I'd just like to give a shout out to all my loyal subscribers. I'd like to thank you very much for subscribing. I'd like to thank you for giving me your thumbs up, and I'd like to thank you for all of your comments, so do keep them coming. Now, in part 1 of front porch rebuild, I showed you how we laid out the footings and the foundations ready to build the walls, and in part 2 what I'm going to do shortly is show you a short overview of how we formed and poured the concrete for the walls and for the steps. So take a look. The way I'm going to put these forms together, you can buy all sorts of fancy material for keeping forms together. I'm using 3/4 inch plywood, which is nice and stiff. It's going to double as the underlay for the concrete deck, which will remain in place forever until somebody comes through the deck or there's an earthquake or something. And the way I'm going to keep the forms, going to build a 4-inch wall. I've cut up just little pieces of PEX pipe, really cheap and cheerful, cut it any length you like, and it's sufficiently stiff. 1/4 inch ready rod out to the other side of the form here. So that's the thickness of my wall, and a nut and a washer either side of the ready rod, and we're good to go. That should contain the hydraulic pressure from the weight of the concrete when it's poured into the form. So we've got a 4-inch wide wall, lots of rebar in here, probably too much, but it's better than too little. And we've got a 4-inch plastic spacer, and the nuts on the end of the tie rod will be removed after the concrete is cured. Enough. Okay, well, let's figure out the angle of the dangle then. And is that level there? Yeah, but all I'm doing is cut it. All I need is the angle. Here you go. I shall go and cut that, and I shall bring it back to you. It's got a bit of a, I don't know if we tightened these bolts a bit too much or something, but don't worry about it. There is a bit of a bend in that. Okay. The reason this is going wacky is because this slopes down slightly. Steps can be tricky for the first time. It's sometimes difficult to wrap your head around, but it's all about run and rise. So in this case we had 31 inches rise and we had approximately 6 feet of run. And so the steps fit in accordingly. We've made it. We've got lots of rebar suspended within the step cavity. We have a minimum thickness underneath the narrow part of about 4 inches of concrete. With all this rebar, that should do it. Well, that's the forming done for the walls. We're just waiting for the concrete truck to arrive so we can pour the concrete, but it always takes longer than you think. In particular, this time we've decided to not only form the walls but form the steps at the same time. And we've got more of a landscape step, so it's only about a 5-inch rise and about a 14-inch tread. So that should be easy to negotiate in our old age. We've also got a rudimentary hopper made up here, so that we're hoping we can pour much of the concrete directly into the wall rather than having to shovel it in. We've got camping sticks ready to settle the concrete down. We don't want too much honeycombing in there. And so we're ready to go, ready to fill.
soil costs money out there, but we make better money than somewhere else.
Yeah, right. And there's not a big...
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm thinking...
Yeah, that's actually where I was just the last time. I've been stuck and...
Yeah, here a concrete truck and the neighbors come a-running.
Anybody want in their
That's
pocket?
fantastic. John, do you want the duckbill trowel here?
No, I got one. I got one right here.
It's a few days now after the second big pour. The third and final big pour will come to approximately where my hand is. That's the plywood decking installed, ready to take the full weight of the 3.5-inch concrete slab